Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever stopped to think, like really think, that quitting smoking now, maybe in your 30s, might actually change your whole future health picture way more than you thought?
Or maybe have you wondered if, I don't know, the perfect grocery list for you, one also good for the planet, could actually be written by some AI soon? And should you even trust it?
Welcome to the deep dive. Look, there's so much information swirling around out there, it's overwhelming. We're here to cut through that noise.
Yeah, we dig into it and pull out the bits that really matter, the surprising stuff, the critical insights, basically helping you get informed fast and understand why it matters.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into a whole mix of insights. They're all pulled together by the news aggregator, consumers.app.
Specifically from their Consumers 360 news commentary snapshot. This one's dated June 12th, 2025.
Right. So our mission today is to walk you through this stuff. We want to connect the dots between topics that might seem totally separate. Things like your health, what you're eating, the latest science, the environment.
And even really practical things like what's actually covered by your car insurance.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to getting up to speed on what's happening across the modern consumer world.
We've gone through the research aggregated by Consumers Research, boiled it down to the key takeaways, and we're focusing on what's most relevant and maybe even actionable for you.
All right, let's jump right in. First topic, this headline really grabbed me. It's from Verywell Health. Why your 30s are a critical time for your longevity.
Yeah, this is pretty powerful stuff. You always hear, oh, it's never too late to get healthy, and that's true, but
this is saying the 30s are special somehow.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The research Consumers looked into really drills down on why the choices you make in that decade seem to have such a disproportionately large impact on how long you live and how healthy those later years are.
So it's not just general be healthy advice. There's something specific about this decade. What is it?
So the Consumers Research Q&A gets into the nitty-gritty science. They point out that making lifestyle changes, then really committing to exercise, cutting way back on alcohol, or, and this is a big one, quitting smoking if you started young. These things have a real measurable effect on your potential lifespan.
Okay.
It seems like your 30s are this key window. It's a time when you can really effectively step in and either prevent or seriously delay the chronic diseases that usually pop up later.
That makes a lot of sense, like you're laying a stronger foundation or maybe fixing cracks before the whole wall comes down.
That's a great way to put it. The research they cited directly links being inactive in your early adult years, especially the 30s, to higher risks later on for really common serious problems, things like heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes. And it's not just about tacking on extra years at the end.
Yep.
It's about making sure the years you do have are, vibrant and active, not just existing.
So yeah, spending your 30s mostly on the couch could literally cost you years of healthy life decades later.
What about drinking? Alcohol came up too. Oh, absolutely. Drinking too much in early adulthood is another major red flag in the research. It seriously ups your risk for liver damage, heart problems, certain cancers.
Right.
So cutting back significantly or stopping in your 30s can really dial back that future risk. It's a change that gives you a lot of bang for your buck health-wise during this period.
It's fascinating how science is starting to pinpoint these specific biological timing things. But didn't Consumers Research also mention something about history, ancient stuff?
Yeah, they did. Just briefly, they touched on how focusing on living longer isn't exactly new. I mean, the science is new, understanding the mechanisms, but the basic idea, people have been onto it for ages.
Yeah.
They mentioned things like ancient Egyptians using garlic, supposedly for health benefits, or, lifestyle advice from way back with Hippocrates and Aristotle. The core idea that how you live impacts how long you live. That's ancient wisdom.
Gotcha. And Consumers also made a point about definitions, life expectancy versus longevity. People mix those up.
Yeah, good point. Life expectancy, that's just the statistical average. How long someone born today in this place is expected to live on average. Longevity is different. That's about actually living significantly longer than the average.
Oh, okay.
So focusing on your 30s, making those changes, that's really aiming for longevity, trying to push beyond just the statistical norm.
And modern science is all over trying to figure out how to do that, right? Understanding aging itself.
Exactly. Consumers Research touched on that. Current research is looking into things like cellular senescence. That's basically when cells get old and stop dividing but hang around causing trouble.
Right, zombie cells.
Kind of. And they're exploring ways to rejuvenate tissues, how to slow down brain aging, looking at genes, diet, even potential drugs. It's a field that's just exploding right now.
So let's bring this home for you, the listener. If you're in your 30s now, or maybe heading that way, this isn't just some abstract science experiment.
Not at all.
The research is basically saying this is a uniquely powerful time to influence your long-term health. So maybe ask yourself, what's one specific practical change based on this that you could honestly think about making? Like right now.
Even something small could make a real difference down the line. It's a chance to invest in your future self.
Definitely something to chew on. Speaking of which, let's switch gears to what we actually put in our bodies. Next topic, headline from Z News. Top 10 health benefits of adding plant-based protein foods to your daily diet.
Yes, the plant-based movement. It's gotten huge, and consumers research really did a good job breaking down the main health pluses here.
So what did they focus on? What are the big wins?
Well, the top benefits they pulled out were things like better heart health. That's mainly because plant proteins usually come with less saturated fat and cholesterol than animal sources.
Makes sense.
Also, improved digestion. Plants tend to be high in fiber. And importantly, they confirm that, yes, plant proteins absolutely do support muscle growth and repair. That's a question a lot of people still have.
Yeah, the can you get swole on plants question. But consumers also flagged a really important warning, didn't they? A nuance.
They did, and this is critical if you're thinking about making a big shift. A 2025 study they referenced showed plant-based diets are linked to lower risks for things like heart disease, diabetes, even colorectal cancer. That's the good news.
Okay.
But there's also a clearly noted higher risk of getting deficient in certain nutrients if the diet isn't well thought out.
Which nutrients were the main culprits?
The ones called out specifically were iodine and riboflavin. So it really hammers home the point. You need to plan carefully. Maybe look for fortified foods or think about specific supplements, especially if you're going all in on plant-based.
Right. It's not just about taking meat off the plate.
Exactly. You have to make sure you're actively getting everything you need from the plant sources you're adding. Planning is absolutely key.
So you can't just grab any veggie burger and call it a day. Got it. Did consumers research talk about what these meat alternatives are actually made from?
Yeah, they listed the common bases. Things like soy, wheat gluten, pea protein, sometimes mycoprotein, which is fungi-based. These provide the protein, and then they're processed to, mimic the texture and taste of meat, which helps people make the switch.
And it feels like a super modern thing, but the idea isn't new at all, is it?
Not even close. Consumers pointed out that tofu, which is like the classic plant protein for many, goes back to China around 200 BCE. 2,000 years.
Wow.
And even in the Middle Ages, during religious fasting times when meat was off limits, people used things like nuts and grapes as substitutes. So yeah, today's high-tech plant-based meats are definitely standing on the shoulders of ancient traditions.
And speaking of high-tech, what's new on that front? How's innovation changing things now?
Well, modern food tech is getting really sophisticated. They mention things like precision fermentation and tissue engineering. These methods are making plant-based options taste and feel much more like conventional meat.
Which probably helps more people try them.
Exactly. And that's important not just for health, but also for the planet, which brings us to the environmental side.
Right, that's a huge part of the conversation too. What did the research highlight there?
The environmental upsides are pretty significant. Moving towards more plant-based eating generally means lower greenhouse gas emissions, using less water, and less pressure on forests compared to raising livestock, especially cattle. It's a big lever we can pull.
So for you listening, maybe think about this from both angles, the health potential, but also the environmental footprint. Could incorporating more plant-based meals work for you? And if so, what planning, like for those nutrients, would you need to do to make it work well?
It's really about finding that sweet spot between what's good for you and what's good for the planet. Informed choices.
That actually leads perfectly into our next topic. This one goes even deeper into how food affects us biologically. It's from the American Council on Science and Health, and the headline is pretty bold. The End of Dietary Guesswork, How Metabolomics is Revolutionizing Nutritional Epidemiology.
Okay, yeah, this is really cutting-edge stuff. It's about moving nutrition science beyond just general advice towards something incredibly precise. Metabolomics. Basically, it's the study of metabolites. Yeah, these tiny molecules your body makes during metabolism, like when you digest food or your cells just do their jobs. Metabolomics measures thousands of these at once.
So instead of asking people, hey, what did you eat last week? which we know is super unreliable.
Exactly. Metabolomics gives researchers a direct biochemical snapshot of what's going on inside your body because of your diet and other factors. It's way more objective than relying on people's memory or food diaries.
And the real power comes when they layer this data with other info, right? Like genetics.
Totally. They talked about combining metabolomics with other omics like genomics, looking at your genes, or transcriptomics, looking at which genes are active. Putting all that together gives this incredibly detailed picture of how your specific biology interacts with the food you eat. It helps pinpoint specific biomarkers, think of them as biological signals, that show how certain foods or eating patterns are affecting your health. And that paves the way for truly personalized nutrition advice.
Sounds incredibly complicated, though. What kind of new methods did the research mention?
Consumers research highlighted some pretty advanced stuff, like using Bayesian variable selection for causal modeling.
Okay, in English.
Right. Basically, it's using fancy statistics to figure out if a specific thing in your diet is actually causing a health outcome, not just, associated with it. Moving from correlation to causation at the biochemical level, especially for things like heart health and metabolism.
That's a huge leap. Are there practical tools helping with this?
Yeah, they mentioned things like the Food Repo database. It's this open access library of bar-coded food products with detailed nutritional info. Tools like that make it much easier for researchers to accurately track what people in studies are actually eating. Less guesswork.
Definitely speeds things up. And they mentioned specific metabolites too, VFAs.
Yeah, volatile fatty acids, acetate, propionate, butyrate. This was a great example. These are made by your gut microbes when they break down fiber. Okay. And they're super important for keeping your gut lining healthy, influencing inflammation. It's a direct link. Eat fiber, feed microbes. Microbes make VFAs. VFAs impact your health systemically. It shows how nutrition works at this really fundamental level.
Fascinating. It sounds like a massive amount of data to handle, though.
Oh, it is. The data challenges are huge. But the research pointed out that scientists are developing sophisticated statistical tools and computer models specifically to crunch all this information. The field is moving fast.
And the end goal is that personalized nutrition idea.
That's the dream, really. Moving away from the one-size-fits-all dietary guidelines we have now towards advice tailored specifically to your metabolism, how your body uniquely handles different foods.
So for you listening, picture this. A future where your diet recommendations aren't based on averages, but on your specific metabolic profile. Maybe from a quick scan or test. How could that totally change how you think about food and health?
It really could be revolutionary, a whole new era for nutrition.
Incredible stuff. Okay, let's switch gears again. Thinking about food choices, but from a different angle of the environmental one, and beyond just meat. Next headlines from The Independent via MSN.com. Peanuts or almonds? Rice or millet? Planet-friendly grocery shopping choices go beyond cutting meat.
Yeah, this is a really important point. Reducing meat intake is often highlighted, and it matters, but the environmental impact of our food is much broader than just that single choice.
Right. Consumers research put some numbers on it. Agriculture accounts for, 13% to 21% of global greenhouse gas emissions?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a huge slice of the pie.
Right.
And they talked about different ways to tackle it. Some are on the farm, like conservation tillage, which is better for soil, or precision agriculture, using tech to optimize water and fertilizer use.
Makes sense.
But a really big part of the solution is on our end, the demand side. What we choose to buy, and crucially, how much food we waste.
Food waste is massive.
Yeah.
And diet shifts come in here too, linking back to the plant-based discussion.
Exactly. The research reiterated that comparison. Processed animal products, especially beef and dairy from cattle, generally have a much heavier environmental footprint.
More greenhouse gases, methane specifically.
Right, compared to most plant-based foods, which tend to have a significantly lower carbon impact.
And technology is playing a role on the environmental side too. Not just on the farm.
Yes. Consumers mentioned things like digital twins for food systems, basically virtual models to test and optimize things, and also large language models, LLMs, the AI tech that's everywhere now.
How can AI help make food more sustainable?
Well, they can analyze huge amounts of data to optimize supply chains, reduce waste during transport and storage, cut emissions. They can even help design sustainable menus or formulate new sustainable protein products by crunching data on ingredient impacts. It's using AI to make the whole food system smarter and greener.
And consumers research brought the health link back in here too, right? Kind of a double whammy.
Yeah, they did. They pointed out that besides the environmental cost, diets high in processed animal products are also linked with health risks, heart disease, certain cancers again. So shifting towards more plant-centric or less resource-intensive options often delivers a win for your health and a win for the planet.
A powerful connection. And the environmental damage can be pretty stark when you look at specific examples.
For sure. They use the example of clearing Amazon rainforests for cattle grazing. The impact is devastating. Massive loss of biodiversity, damaged soil, even contributing to the spread of antibiotic resistance. It really brings home the global ripple effects of certain food choices.
So the takeaway, again, emphasizes changes we can make.
Definitely. Reducing food waste is key. And consciously choosing more plant-based foods or using alternatives for milk and meat, these are presented as really crucial, impactful strategies that individuals have power over.
So for you, the listener, next time you're walking down the grocery aisle, maybe pause for a second. Think beyond just the price tag or what you're craving. Consider the wider ripples, the environmental cost, the potential health impact. What's one small swap you could try this week to make your shopping basket a little bit greener, a little bit healthier?
Every little bit really does add up.
Okay, final topic. We're doing a complete 180 now. Shifting from food and environment to something super practical that affects millions of us. Car insurance. This headline's from CNBC. 13 things car insurance doesn't cover.
Ah, yes. Insurance policies. Not the most exciting read, but knowing what's not covered can save you a world of pain and potentially a lot of money. There are some common misconceptions.
Okay, so what are some big things that your standard policy typically leaves out? What did consumers' research flag?
Well, the obvious ones, maybe. Like if you intentionally damage your own car, that's not covered. Normal wear and tear, think worn out tires or brakes, isn't covered. Mechanical breakdowns that aren't from an accident usually aren't covered either.
Right, maintenance stuff.
But a really big one they highlighted is using your personal car for business, for commercial purposes, without the right insurance.
That seems huge now, with ride sharing and delivery gigs being so common. So if you're driving for Lyft or delivering food and you crash, your regular policy might just say, nope.
That's often exactly what happens, yeah. It's a huge potential pitfall. Personal policies are typically just for personal driving, commuting, errands, road trips. If you earn money using your car, you almost certainly need a commercial policy or a specific rideshare endorsement.
Good to know. What about theft? I've heard confusion about this. If someone smashes your window and steals your laptop from the seat, is that car insurance?
Generally, no. Consumers research clarified this point. Your car insurance covers damage to the car itself, like the broken window. But the items stolen from inside the car usually fall under your homeowner's or renter's insurance, assuming you have that coverage for personal property.
Ah, that's a key distinction. Okay. They also mentioned different types of insurance systems briefly.
Yeah, just a quick mention of no-fault versus traditional court systems. No-fault means, in basic terms, your own insurer pays for your injuries up to a limit, regardless of who caused the crash. It's meant to speed things up. Traditional systems involve figuring out who was at fault.
Got it. And acts of God, natural disasters. Hail smashes my windshield, floodwaters damage the engine. Am I covered?
It depends entirely on what coverage you bought. Basic liability insurance, the legal minimum in most places, that won't cover it. Liability is only for damage you cause to others.
Okay.
To cover damage to your car from things like hail, floods, fire, theft, or hitting an animal, you need comprehensive coverage. It's an optional add-on.
Right. Liability for others, comprehensive for other stuff happening to your car, and collision for crash damage to your car. And then there are deductibles.
Yep. The deductible, that's the amount you have to pay out of your own pocket for a covered repair before the insurance money starts flowing. Consumers noted the trade-off. Pick a higher deductible and your regular premium payments will likely be lower.
But you'll pay more upfront if you actually have a claim.
Exactly. It's about balancing your monthly cost versus your potential out-of-pocket expense if something happens. Depends on your savings and how much risk you're comfortable with.
So even though there are standard exclusions, you can often tailor your policy somewhat.
Oh yeah, definitely. The research mentioned you can usually add endorsements or riders for specific things, like rental car reimbursement while your car is in the shop after a covered claim, or roadside assistance coverage.
The main message, the absolute bottom line from consumers' research on this was,
read your policy. You absolutely have to understand the specific terms, conditions, limits, and especially the exclusions of your specific insurance contract.
Don't just assume you're covered.
Exactly. Knowing what is and isn't covered before you need it is crucial. It avoids nasty surprises and potential financial hardship when you file a claim.
Okay, so a challenge for you, the listener. When did you last actually look at your car insurance declaration page or policy booklet? Do you really know what's excluded? Might be worth digging it out, especially if you use your car for side gigs or live where storms are common or just want peace of mind.
Yeah, spending even 15 minutes reviewing it now can save you a massive headache later.
Wow. Okay, we have covered some serious ground today, haven't we?
We really have.
We started with how your choices in your 30s can echo through your entire life, then jumped into plant-based diets, the benefits, but also the need for planning. Then that mind-bending stuff about metabolomics potentially ending dietary guesswork.
Right, then the environmental impact hiding in your grocery cart beyond just meat. And we finished up with the nitty-gritty of what your car insurance might be missing.
It really shows how interconnected everything is and how being informed across these different areas is just, well, essential for navigating modern life.
Absolutely. Each piece of insight we talked about today, all drawn from that Consumer's 360 snapshot, hopefully helps you feel a bit more informed, maybe a bit more prepared as a consumer.
And that really is the goal here at the deep dive, cutting through the noise to bring you those useful nuggets.
So as you think about all this, here's a final thought to leave you with. If that science of metabolomics keeps advancing, and we get to a point of truly personalized diets based on your unique biology, how might that completely change your relationship with food, with health advice, moving beyond generic rules to something hyper-specific?
A pretty wild thought, isn't it, what that future might look like? Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in and exploring these topics with us today.
And hey, if you want to keep getting these kinds of insights to stay ahead of curve on consumer news and research, please do like, share, and subscribe to Consumers 360.